Welcome back. Welcome back. What do you think of the story? That's a pretty cool story, isn't it? It's a pretty great story. There's drama in it. There's kings and queens and people trying to make plots against people. It's a very intense story, isn't it? It's a really good story. In fact, they've made movies out of this story. It's so good. So who do they talk about? Remember when before you started watching this video, I had two questions for you. I said, first one was, who do they talk about more? Do they talk about Esther more or Mordecai? What do you think? Yeah, they talk about Esther a lot more than they do Mordecai, don't they? Because she's the hero of the story, so it kind of makes sense. But does Mordecai do some important things? Yeah, he really does. So here's what I want you to do. Okay, I'm gonna give you the question again, and the question is, can you name some of the things that Mordecai did? But I'm gonna have you pause the video here and talk about it here at home and then start the video back up when you're done with that conversation. So the question is, what are some of the things that Mordecai did in the story of Esther? You can go ahead and pause it. Okay, well, welcome back here. Hope you had a good conversation. I'm going to tell you some of the things that I saw that Mordecai did, and you see if you thought of these things, or maybe you even thought of some that I didn't catch. So one thing is he took Esther in, right? Esther's parents had died, and he took care of Esther when she needed help. So he took her in. That was a big sacrifice. What else did he do? Well, he helped people to think highly of Esther. He did certain things so that they would start to think really good about Esther, start thinking well of her. Another thing, right, when he learned about the plot to kill the king, what did he do? Did he just say, no, well, too bad for the king. He'll figure it out. No, right? What did he do? He went and told the king. Actually, though, he didn't tell the king, did he? He told Esther so Esther could tell the king. And that way it would make Esther look better, and the king would like Esther more. And then the king would also be protected. Now, of course, she also told him, no, it was Mordecai who told me about this. And so the king was able to know about him as well. What's another thing? Well, he stood up to Haman. I mean, literally stood up to Haman. He wouldn't bow down to him, right? And Cain was kind of a bully. Actually, he was a really bad guy. And he stood up to him and he said, I'm not going to kneel down to you. I'm only going to kneel down to the Lord because he's the only one that deserves it. And so that was a brave thing to do. And then another thing he did was he encouraged Esther. Right? When Esther wasn't sure what to do, when they knew about the decree that the king put out to kill all the Jews, and she's like, I don't know what to do. He might kill me. And he encouraged her. He encouraged her to do the right thing, even though it was really hard to do. He encouraged her to help her to do that. And he kind of guides her through this whole thing. He shares his wisdom with her and guides her through this whole story, doesn't he? He's in the background through most of this story. And that's what he's doing, right? And maybe you've done some of these types of things too. Now, you probably haven't adopted someone, sure, but maybe you've made a friend with someone who the other kids wouldn't be friends with and kind of brought them in that way, took them in. Or maybe you've encouraged someone to do the right thing when it was a hard thing to do. Maybe you've stood up to a bully or stood up against something that someone was going to do that was wrong. Those are all things like what Mordecai did. And they're all great things to be able to do to serve God and to love others around us. And that's what Mordecai was doing. He was serving God and helping others around him. And he was doing it just in the place that God had put him. Now, why did he do it? Well, he did it because he loved God. He did it because he loved his people, and he did it because he loved Esther. Did he do it for a reward? Did he do it because if I do these things, I'm going to get great stuff for me? No. He did it because he loved God, he loved his people, and he loved Esther. Now, he still did get some cool rewards in it, but that's not why he did it. Those things came later. And that's why we do things. We do things because, to show love and to serve God because we love God and we love the people around us. And that's the way that we can show that love, by encouraging them, by standing up against things that are wrong, by encouraging people to do what's right, all of those types of things. And so that's what Mordecai does. Right? He serves God and he helps others in the place that he is. And then he also encouraged Esther to do that. Remember what he told Esther? When she wasn't sure what to do, when she was trying to figure out, well, how do we go talk to the king and get him to stop this horrible law against the people of Israel? And she was afraid. And he says, you know what, Esther? I know you're afraid, but perhaps this is the moment for which you have been created. Perhaps this is the moment for which you have been created. And the thing is that we all have moments like that, moments in people's lives where we're able to do something for them that no one else can, where we're able to serve God and help them in ways that no one else can. And maybe that's the moment for why we're friends with them, why we're in this, playing soccer or whatever it is that we're doing. Maybe that can be a moment that's bigger than the group or the activity that we're in. So we can look for those ways. So that's what we're going to talk about in our activity as well. But first, let's say a prayer. So if you would please repeat after me. Dear Jesus, thank you for all the activities and all of the groups that I'm in. They bring joy and are fun. Help me to also serve you and help others in these activities and groups. Amen. Amen. All right. So the next thing that you have is you can do a song, right? So there's a song after this, but then we also have an activity. You're going to be drawing a circle map. What's a circle map? Well, circle map is kind of a cool way to be able to think about things. And basically, you're going to draw two circles, one smaller circle, one larger circle. And in the smaller circle, you'll put your name and maybe things that I do. And then in the outer circle, or like in between the two, actually, you're going to put in some of the things that you do. It might be family, it might be school, it might be soccer, or whatever it is that you do. And then outside the larger circle, you'll be able to write out some things. What are some ways that I can serve God and help others in these things that I do? So enjoy singing the next song and enjoy the craft, and I'll see you next week. God bless.